Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, so go ahead, Eric.
Okay. So pretty much right at the end of my last day before the break, which was back on December 20th, um, I was able to get our Jenkins kind of swapped out with a near identical image. The only difference being that this one actually allowed me SSH access. So now that that is done and that machine is in production, we can actually move forward with important things like getting Jenkins fully up to date, getting all the plugins updated, pretty much all administrative tasks that have been on hold since staff left, can now start moving forward. In fact, say that they've been on hold since long before that because it's pretty out of date.
It is pretty out of date. I don't even think we want to know how out of date it is, but yeah,
But yeah, I will start stepping it forward. I don't know if we're going to go to the latest version, but at very least, there's a few dot releases that we're behind on our current version that are needed for compatibility with a lot of plugin updates. So I will start by stepping it forward to there and then see how further upgrades go, because a lot of times those bigger upgrades you'll find plugin incompatibilities and things like that. So I need to set up a maintenance window. Um, I tend to do those in the after like late afternoon to evening on Pacific time, so usually like 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific, just because there's usually that gap um, when you get off the West Coast and
yeah. I think it's not a huge deal, but I think most of those jobs run in roughly that window. So if
mhm.
it's just as easy for you, maybe an earlier window would be fine. It's not a
Okay.
critical. I don't think it's critical either way.
Yeah, usually what I'm trying to do is not interrupt anyone's workflow, but if you guys are more reliant on um, time jobs, or like that is perhaps the greater concern, it's absolutely no problem for me to do it in the middle of the day. It is, in fact, easier for me to do it in the middle of my regular workday,
Yeah,
but usually that's more disruptive.
let's yeah. In this particular case, strangely, it's um, probably better to do it earlier.
Okay. Um, okay, then I think I can, let me check my calendar. Yes, actually, this is fantastic. I have nothing on my calendar for tomorrow, so I can definitely set up a maintenance window tomorrow during the day.
Good.
What I usually do, I can do Slack notifications, but do we have a good mailing list for that? Just to
Ether
like let
Dev. I
every
mean,
like,
we just do so much on Slack. I mean, Ether Dev would be the place to do it, but
okay,
um, Slack is fine.
okay, all right. Well then, once I put that on the calendar, I'll go ahead and let everybody know. Let's see, yeah, in the Ether Dev channel on Slack.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Second sub bullet there is about we've had this conversation about co-locating the registry with Jenkins same subnet so that um, I'll just be a little more specific here. I assume that's still obviously pending.
Yes. So actually, one thing that I'm not sure of, and I'm pretty sure I put this in the ticket. Uh, Sorry, let me pull it up and double check. I'm still getting resettled after 2 weeks off. Yeah. Okay, yes. So one of the concerns here is just that during the build, we need to specify where the images are being pulled. Um, do we, is there an easy way of specifying that they're pulled from our registry? Because the registry is already co-located with Jenkins. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
we can change the on-ramp playbooks to pull from wherever we want to.
okay.
But having said that, then those will be the playbooks that everyone's using, so everyone will then be pulling from our registry, which is fine. That's the way it used to be.
hmm
I don't know if you remember the history that we slightly talked about last time, but the registry just kept falling over for one reason or another, and so we kind of backed off from it, but keeping the registry running is the right answer.
It was probably every
Okay,
3
yeah.
months need to.
Does anyone else want to weigh in on that?
Can you hear me?
Just
You're very
barely.
quiet.
Oh, okay. Second. Switch.
Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so primarily the issue was every 3 months the certificate is used to expire. There was not an automated way to renew them, or at least the automated way wasn't working. So that's why basically we had no reliable way to have the registry in there, right? But if it is reliable now, we can just switch by default to use our own images.
Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue anymore. I can double check though, but yeah, I believe we've gotten everything up to date with automatic renewals.
Okay.
I'm just making note. I think this is go ahead and do this and make it work. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so the registry is already there and is up to date or not? I'm sorry, are the most up-to-date images being published to the Ether registry today?
Okay, so at the moment, we are publishing into the Ether registry only the per commit images. We are not pushing there the release images. And that's basically what I put in as part of the agenda for the SD core. At least, I mean, I'm talking for the SD core side, right?
Yeah.
So what we decided on like February last year, when we were kind of reworking the whole CI/CD, was to kind of keep some kind of like of the historical stuff, how things were being done before, which was every single pull request was creating an incremental image. And besides that, there was these release images. So what we did is the per PR image, we were pushing that into the Ether registry, and the release images, we were pushing them into the Docker Hub. So if we decide to go for our Ether registry, the release images need to be pushed into our Ether registry. We can keep also pushing to Docker Hub as a backup, let's say. But as I put in the SD core question, do we need to keep kind of creating these per PR images? Because as far as I know, they have never been used, or at least in the past, probably they were used in the past, but now we are using release images for the SD core. So
No, I don't know that we do. I don't remember why that was decided. I mean, obviously for record keeping, but so I think it's perfectly fine to
Okay, but
not do that and to
So
only,
Gabriel, can you clarify like what you mean by per PR image and release image?
oh, sure. Per PR images are the ones that they have the name, you know, historical reasons. Before it was master dash commit ID, right? So every time there was a new PR, there was this image being created that was called master dash commit ID and also master dash latest. So those two images were always kind of getting pushed every time a PR got merged. What we decided on, like at the beginning of last year, is kind of when we modify the pipeline, says, okay, we don't need to kind of keep pushing everything to Docker Hub. So basically, we said, okay, we didn't know at that time how these per PR images were being used. So we said, okay, let's keep publishing those images, but let's publish those images into the Aether registry, and let's publish to Docker Hub only the release images. Release images means when you make a version change in the version file. So, for example, you create a rel.1.4 version, for example, that has nothing to do with the commit ID as a tag for the image. That's what is happening.
Okay.
So I think in the past the SD core Helm charts were using not tags like explicit linking to a release, but it was using tags related to a branch and the commit ID. So basically, when we kind of redesign the whole pipeline, we went away from that part, and we are just using this kind of a rel dash one dot something or two dot something, depending on the version for that. So again, I believe those that now they are called main dash commit ID or main that latest. I believe they are not being used anywhere, so there's no need to keep publishing those.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I agree. I think if you're not using, then no point in publishing. Yeah.
Yeah, at least I haven't removed it because I'm not aware of that anybody is using, but I wanted to kind of bring it up to the TST to see whether somebody is using those or not. Now, one thing regarding these changes, Larry and Eric, do we want to make these changes now, or do we want to consolidate the GitHub actions into the GitHub repository such that we have just a single place for changing this?
I think if we're already doing that, it'd be fine to wait until we do the consolidation to remove that. Just to lower the effort, and I don't think it's a big deal, if we've been doing it for a while, to continue pushing those until we do another already planned step.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
so I want to make sure I understood Gabriel's question, though. Making the change on the per PR, that can certainly wait. Has no urgency whatsoever, just as well wait until we can do it all at once. But in terms of starting to publish the versioned releases to the Aether registry, I would like to do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the only thing on that, Larry, is that if we do this before we consolidate the GitHub actions, we need to open somewhere like around 25 PRs, one for each repository. And we need to make this same change on all of the OMake repositories that we use for the 5G system. If we combine the GitHub actions first, then we just need to create one single change or one PR in a single repository to have this done. So it's basically less effort.
Certainly. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood which point you were making.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is actually the other item on the infrastructure list, which I guess we should talk about. Consolidated GitHub actions. I forgot to add that to the discussion here. Um, I think that's on your plate again, Eric. Lots on your plate. Can you say where that is?
At this point, I don't really have any updates. Pretty much all of my time before the winter break was going into getting full access to the Jenkins server.
Got it. Okay.
So that's complete now, so the things will move forward. But yeah, as of today, I don't really have any updates.
Okay. All right. So I suspect that we probably need to gate everything behind this then. It's funny how everything queues up with dependencies. All right, so Gabriel, is that how you would like to see it?
Yeah. It's gonna be less effort for whoever is gonna do it. So
All right, so certainly as a background issue, getting Jenkins up to date. You're in the middle of that. Go ahead and finish that. But I think let's unless there's any objection, we consolidate these publish actions per org instead of per repo. And then we'll be in a position to publish to the Aether registry, and then we'll be in a position to change the playbooks so that they use the Aether registry rather than Docker Hub. Does that sound like a plan?
mhm. Now, one thing we haven't, as I mentioned, we haven't published any release images into the Aether registry. Do we want to have the images that we have already published into Docker Hub also kind of like copied into the Aether registry to have the older images? Or do you want just to start from
Yeah, we
wherever we start?
actually do. I think we probably do need to have the older. Yeah, maybe not. The playbooks will be consistent with whatever the latest images is. So anyone that has an older playbook will still be using the older, or anyone
Okay.
using the older images will also be using the older playbook.
Okay.
So I don't think it's required.
And I'll say, copying images from one registry to another is not a difficult task. Like that's something I can script up and just have happen pretty easily.
Well, if you did that, then we would have an up-to-date. We won't have the future published images, but we will have an up-to-date set of images on the Aether registry, and that would free us from this gating issue.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Correct.
yeah,
At
I
least,
like that.
at least from on-ramp perspective, you can move to use the Aether registry.
All right, so let me try to figure out how to say this here. So that's need to publish. I think this is somewhat orthogonal. Need to sync, whoops. Already published. I'm typing in case anyone. All right, need to sync the Aether registry with already published images on Docker Hub. So in this whole set of notes, I think is the path forward, but I could try to make it more explicit if that's necessary. But Eric, are you in sync with what the idea is?
Yeah, I think this makes perfect sense.
Okay. All right, so the registry changes are for future images. Is gated on this happening. All right. Moving on. We've already spent a fair amount of time there, but I think these are all the top of mind items that we need to take care of. Core?
Yeah, so one thing that I was discussing with Gislan last year is that now he's a member of the TST, but from the code perspective, he has been helping us to review code, approve code, but at the moment, he's not a member of any GitHub organization that can have the power to truly approve PR. So there is one group for now where there are 3 members that basically we have the approval level to kind of approve PRs, which who are Ajay, Badri, and myself. So I was kind of bringing this up for the TST, kind of provide kind of like approval to add Gislan into the group or properly update the group. And as of now, we only require a single approver for a PR to be merged. If we are more than one, do we want more than one approver before a PR is merged, or how we would like to proceed on that side?
So my recollection is that this doesn't require a TST approval. It does require the approval of the current maintainers of any given subsystem.
Okay.
If you'd like me to verify that, and even, whatever we've written down is we inherited from long ago anyway, so I don't.
Right. Yeah, no, I was kind of telling Gislan, I am an admin in the OMIC project, so I can easily add, remove anyone, but I didn't want to do it on my own, right? So I wanted to kind
Yeah.
of
No,
bring this up.
it's a great question to ask, and I think that's fine. Is anyone else?
Yeah, so from the group, I believe Ajay is okay with that. At least I saw a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, so then I'm gonna, after the call, I'm gonna add Gislan to the group, the 5GC maintainers group. Do we want to keep a single approver to merge PRs, or do we want to increase to 2? Any feedback, any input, Ajay, Gislan?
I think single approval is fine, Gabriel.
Okay.
As long as all the open comments are resolved, I think we should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, with only 3 of you, that's already taking 2 of you, or sound often, since you're doing most of the commits.
Right. Okay. And Badri is going to stay as part of the group, correct? Or should we update the group, or what should we do about that?
If somebody is not contributing for quite some time, then I think we can remove them. Maybe we should have some timeline, right? Maybe like 6 months or 1 year or something. And then not to have any stale entries there, right? Did you mean Badrinath?
Well, I contact him time to time when I was not able to kind of reach you, so he was my savior.
Yeah, I mean, I know he is aware about the code, and if he's contributing in terms of whether it's a review or responding to folks on the Slack, then it's fine to have it.
Okay.
Right? So because he's aware about the code, he has done a lot of coding in this area.
Perfect.
But if you see like no activity at all, right, then I think those entries can be called out as a stale.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So then, moving to the second bullet point.
Can I just add real quick to
Sure.
this whole discussion? It would be great, since I know at one point, as Larry mentioned, this this process and these like agreements on who is considered a maintainer and how people are added or removed was documented somewhere, and I don't think it's in any of the new stuff.
Yeah,
Would it make sense
I'm-
to kind of add this to the wiki as kind of this is the criteria to be a maintainer and this is the process for adding or removing, just so we're all on the same page?
yeah, so I'm pointing to the documentation that I believe is most relevant, which I haven't read recently, so it is there.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if we agree on something, we write it down because none of us
Yeah.
are ever going to remember it.
I agree with that.
So this says, members of the TST and existing core contributors, which are the maintainers, can regularly invite people to become new contributors. Oh, so it's
Yep.
actually made to the TST. So I would, that's a nomination, so we could effectively say what Gabriel has just done is done a nomination.
But if you take a look at the third line says also, but in the second line is basically it says any core contributor can, invite people to become core contributors. So in this case, is basically what we are doing at the moment. Ajay
Okay,
and
so there
myself.
are, thank you, there are two paths in, that's good, and we just followed one of them.
Okay.
If if the core contributors were being had blindfolds on and it could still be overridden by the TST, so to speak. Okay,
This is on Aether docs, right?
yeah, this is in the Ether docs.
It might be good to add at least a link to this specific section on the wiki too.
Yeah,
just
I
for
think I'll do
folks.
that. Yeah, I'll do that. Or if you get to it before me, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, sounds good.
I have made a pass over this not too long ago, so I think it's reasonably up to date, but folks might take a look at it and see if it needs more attention. This is not, yeah, this is the docsether.org contributing to Ether, which is a subsection under develop Ether. Anyway. So back to.
Yeah, I have one more point that I didn't put it on the agenda. It's kind of like a status update.
Go ahead.
I know if you are going to write something, go ahead.
I'm just making note that we need to link contributor doc to the wiki. That establishes the practice. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing that I don't have there in the agenda is an update about the 3GPP release upgrade. So the last few days I have had really good progress on that. From the Open API perspective, I have created the models, APIs. I have updated the NAS module that depends also on the Open API. Everything is fine there. And at the moment, based on the a roadmap that we created for the release upgrade. So we are going to concentrate on the service-based interface, basically. And for that, we said that we're going to kind of start with a single a network function. So at the moment, I'm using the SMF as a reference point. So I'm using the new Open API for release 18, and I have been addressing all the different kind of like discrepancies between release 15 and release 18. And I hope it doesn't take more than a couple of weeks to finalize this, at least with testing and all that stuff. And if that is successful, basically we can follow the same path for the rest of the network functions, and we can be in a good situation regarding the service-based interface and release 18.
Good. If you want to add some bullets to that item on the agenda, just for the record, go ahead. But otherwise, I just said that progress is happening. Good.
Yeah, probably something that maybe we should have mentioned. I don't know whether in release, probably as part of the SD code as well. A while ago, I started working on an additional GitHub action for testing to run an end-to-end test when basically we make a change on any of the network functions. Previously with some other stuff, so I haven't been able to complete on that part, but almost at the end of the year, Gulson from Canonical took over that task, and she's gonna go having some good progress to add an additional end-to-end action for us to kind of test, and we avoid the manual testing of any PR for the future. So that's the other thing that so we can actually test all the changes on the SD core from an end-to-end perspective test.
All right, moving to SD-RAN, I don't see Wuzhong. Anyone else updates there? So I do know that he has now written, or the team has a release draft notes, which you can follow the link and take a look at. So I think maybe Denise, I see you're on, there's a plan for a webinar of some kind, or not in detail yet, but the hope to do one.
I'm hoping to be able to put together a webinar. I've drafted, in addition to the release notes, I've drafted a blog based on the release notes. And once we get that finalized, we'll put together a plan for doing a webinar. Question is who would be the participants on the webinar? I assume like Wuzhong, who else might be presenters on that, Larry?
He would be the prime.
Okay,
one
that's
for
what I
that.
think. Okay,
It's possible that someone from Iowa State that's been using and waiting on the latest release would have something to contribute. So I'll leave it. We'll see in a minute. SD-RAN work is going on there. So that's a possibility as well.
okay. I'll check with Wuzhong.
Okay. On-ramp, not a ton of news there. Gabriel and colleagues at Intel Labs are working on some new blueprints, and he and I had an exchange. We're just raising the alert that anyone that has a new blueprint, bring it to the TST. We need to create repositories for the new components of the blueprint, the new playbooks, but that's easy to do. And they can stay private until they're ready to go public. So it's easy to do it incrementally. And to know what is in a blueprint, follow that link. That it's not presented as a set of requirements, but it basically specs out what goes into a blueprint. ARA deployments.
Yeah, so this is Tianyi. I'm working on the SD-RAN side. So recently I'm checking the overall alliance specification on the E2 service model, and also checking the code of the SD-RAN side. Yeah, we are trying to find the potential direction to work on like accepts such as like spectrum slicing or spectrum sharing or network slicing. Yeah, we will try to define like what's our best way to like develop the accept or develop code and contribute to the SD-RAN, and also like make everything works on our error testbed.
That's great. And just to tie that back to any PR that we do, blog or webinar for SD-RAN, I think including your using of it is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to say something?
Larry, do you need any input, like any particular information that could be useful from Tianyi?
You mean to feedback to the folks coding on SD-RAN?
Oh no, I mean the webinar. Like for your comment about the webinar itself.
Yeah,
Do you
well,
just need
I
a
was just
bullet point saying this is done, or do you need any figure or slide? If you need anything, just let us know. Yeah.
thanks. Yeah. So Diane, I think that's the other source of information. Or material content to go into that.
So I guess another question, Larry, I have is it could be that I haven't got a chance to find it out. And I recall actually reading the article you had about owners back a few years ago. So I was just curious if there's any like some of the even deep dive technical thinking articles about, what are the key design principles of rigs and so on, that and how SD-RAN was actually aligned with or contributing or shaping those principles. Was there any summaries about such technical insight anywhere?
That's a really good question. And I think your team is more motivated to do publishing on this than the original team. So I would encourage you just to take an initiative on that if you want to, and then, call in people like Ujan to contribute to it, who will have a lot of history.
Yeah.
So the answer is, I don't know of any.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I mean, there have been, and Alex, I think, is still, well, I saw Alex on at one point, may know more. There have been, what's the right word? Appraisals of SD-RAN and the RIC and comparing it to alternatives. But to me, they are fairly, I shouldn't use this word, but they're superficial. It uses this language and not that language. They're not deep dives, so to speak, in my view, not in the way I have a feeling you would be thinking about it.
I see.
No, so
I
actually
mean,
there is a deep dive project in progress comparing the Flex rig from OAI and SD-RAN and the rig from the Oran software community. We hope to get it done by the end of the month, and it's more than that. It's with running applications and performance comparison and stuff like that. So
perfect. So Alex, is this like a private thread that's happening right now, or any way we can participate or potentially even contribute?
well, this is funded by LF and it's done by Remedo Labs. So it's not somehow open. I mean,
That's
of
fine.
course,
Yeah.
you are all welcome then to comment and so on.
How,
But the initial report will be done by them.
right. So where's where would the report be announced? Just curious. So I'm not like deep into the Linux Foundation. Yeah.
Well, we will for sure announce it here as well, and I can let you know. No worries when we have something.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Alex, I think there's a preliminary, I mean, it wasn't really a full draft. It was, but kind of, and there is a review committee kind of involved in it as well. So there are kind of some drafts coming out, and I'd be perfectly happy to share that a little more broadly. Maybe you could help.
Yes.
I can't remember when the last thing came out, but actually we're supposed to get it soon. So it's supposed to, it was supposed to be done last year. So it's a little bit overdue at this point. So we expect to see it pretty soon.
Yeah. No, essentially we are just trying to understand this problem space a little bit better. If there's anything that, even if it's anything dropped, basically we're just kind of in the learning process. Try to get our hands on to anything that's good to read, to understand the context and everything better. Yeah.
Sure. So let me try to find it, and I will get back to you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Alex. All right, so let me just. Well, I guess this is sort of, I will just make this note here. Just so everyone knows, there's now a wiki page. which I would go and find, but then I'd lose my place here. So let me see if I can, where is the wiki? There's the release notes. Yeah, we're gonna try to do a better job of making the Ether community aware of what's going on in the ARA community. So I'll just put that in the notes here. Okay. Continuing on with the what's going on in the core.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the blueprint, how we have been able to integrate the Ericsson run with the core, I'll put together the blueprint. We have the draft ready. We are still like revising it. So one quick question here. So the Ether on-ramp documentation uses Sphinx, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's what we are using right now. So as soon as that is done, we'll go ahead and let you know. So that is on the documentation part. And then we still have the issue we presented to the team the last time pending, which is the UE barring issue. That's what we are still facing. So when we run the Hyper for a very long time, we have the UE PDU session released, and even after like putting it on airplane mode and back again, we are still not able to get it connected. But we are currently in touch with AJ on the Slack. So we'll get some more logs presented to the team, and then we can dissect the issue. So.
All right. Yeah, so on the documentation, just FYI, you could actually submit a pull request against the Ether docs at some point if you wanted to. And they're in the same repo as on Ether on-ramp. It's just Ether docs. You'll find it there.
Okay, right, sure.
And if you need, which at some point I would assume you would, a repo for your playbooks, if any of them differ, but maybe it actually is more just an issue of the main.yaml file.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it is. Okay, never mind. All right, anything else? Okay, so I added another item at the end. I was hoping we'd have 15 minutes to talk about a potential collaborator. I actually, maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see anyone from what to go to online. All right, I thought they might be here today, but you can visit their website and just know that they are interested in collaborating. If you see any opportunities, please feel free to jump on it.
Yeah, Larry, I have them on the calendar for next week. So
Oh, is it next week? Yeah, okay, thank you. I will move that up there. I was thinking it was this first one, which. Okay, we'll just get a introduction from them hopefully next week. My bad. Anything else? All right, thanks everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.